Marcus Jenkins stood at the entrance of the Grand Shoreline Amphitheater in Mountain View, California. Today was his first big assignment as a security guard for the annual Google I/O Developer Conference. His black uniform was crisp and neat, and his security badge hung proudly on his chest. Marcus had only been working for the security company for 3 months, but he had already impressed his boss with his attention to detail and strict following of rules. The morning sun was bright, and Marcus adjusted his sunglasses as he checked his watch. It was 8:15 a.m., and the main event would start at 10 o'clock a.m. VIPs and executives were scheduled to arrive early for final preparations. Marcus had spent the previous night studying the security protocols and trying to memorize faces of important Google executives from their photos. Remember, no one gets in without proper credentials. No exceptions, his supervisor had told the security team during their morning briefing. Marcus nodded, taking his job very seriously. As people began arriving, Marcus checked badges and cross-referenced names with his list. Everything was going smoothly until a simple Honda Civic pulled up to the VIP entrance. Marcus raised an eyebrow. Most executives arrived in luxury cars or company vehicles. A man in his late 40s stepped out of the car. He wore a simple gray button-up shirt and black pants. Nothing about him screamed important executive. He walked toward the entrance with a calm, humble demeanor, carrying only a small notebook and his phone. "Good morning," the man said with a smile. "Beautiful day for the conference." Marcus nodded politely. "ID and credentials, please." The man reached for his pockets, then a look of surprise crossed his face. "I seem to have left my badge in my other jacket. I'm Sundar Pichai. I'm supposed to give the keynote today." Marcus froze for a moment. The name sounded familiar from his preparation, but he couldn't be sure. The man in front of him didn't look like a powerful CEO. There was no entourage, no fancy suit, no air of self-importance. "I'm sorry, sir, but I can't let anyone in without proper credentials," Marcus said firmly. "I understand," the man replied calmly. "Let me make a quick call to my assistant. She can bring my badge." As the man stepped aside to make his call, Marcus felt a tap on his shoulder. It was Lisa from the event coordination team, her eyes wide with shock. "You know who that is?" she whispered urgently. "He says he's Sundar something," Marcus replied. "But rules are rules. No credentials, no entry." Lisa's face turned pale. "That's Sundar Pichai, the CEO of Google. This is literally his event." Marcus felt his stomach drop. He looked back at the man, who was still calmly making his phone call, showing no signs of anger or frustration. Other Google employees began to gather around, whispering and pointing. Some approached Marcus, insisting he should let Mr. Pichai in immediately. But Marcus stood his ground. "I'm sorry, but I have strict instructions. Security protocol says everyone needs proper identification, no matter who they are." The crowd grew as more staff arrived. The situation was becoming tense. Marcus could feel sweat forming on his forehead, but he remained firm. His job was to follow protocol, and that's exactly what he would do. Little did Marcus know that this encounter would change his life forever, and the events that would unfold next would be truly unexpected. The small crowd around the entrance grew larger with each passing minute. Marcus Jenkins maintained his position, blocking the entrance despite the increasingly uncomfortable situation. His supervisor, Dave, rushed over after hearing about the commotion through his radio. "What's going on here?" Dave asked, looking concerned. "This gentleman says he's Sundar Pichai, but he doesn't have any credentials," Marcus explained, trying to keep his voice steady. "I'm following protocol." Dave looked at the calm man standing to the side and immediately recognized the CEO of Google. His face turned a deep shade of red. "Mr. Pichai, I am so sorry about this," Dave began, but Sundar raised his hand gently to stop him. "Please, don't worry. Your guard is doing exactly what he should," Sundar said with a genuine smile. "Security is important, and I respect that he's following the rules." The growing crowd of Google employees watched in amazement. Many had their phones out, quietly taking pictures and videos of the scene. This wasn't the kind of drama they expected at a developer conference. Marcus stood firm, though his legs felt like jelly. In his mind, he was already updating his resume for a new job search. Who keeps the CEO out of his own event and still has a job the next day? Sundar's assistant, Jane, arrived 5 minutes later, rushing through the parking lot with a lanyard in hand. She was out of breath and looked mortified. "I am so sorry, sir," she said, handing Sundar his official badge and credentials. "I picked up your jacket from the dry cleaner, but forgot to check the pockets." "It's fine, Jane. Actually, this has been quite interesting," Sundar replied, taking the badge and hanging it around his neck. Marcus carefully checked the credentials, comparing the photo to the man standing in front of him. Everything was in order. He stepped aside and gestured toward the entrance. "Thank you for your patience, Mr. Pichai. You may enter now." Instead of walking straight in, Sundar paused in front of Marcus and extended his hand. "What's your name?" he asked. "Marcus Jenkins, sir," Marcus replied, shaking Sundar's hand with a slightly trembling grip. "Marcus, thank you for your dedication to security. In a world where people often make exceptions based on who someone claims to be, your commitment to proper procedure is refreshing." The crowd around them murmured in surprise. This was not the reaction they expected. Dave stepped forward, still looking uncomfortable. "Mr. Pichai, I assure you this won't happen again. We'll make sure all our team recognizes you on sight." Sundar shook his head. "No, that's not necessary. Your security protocols are important. I'm the one who should have remembered my badge." He turned to Marcus again. "How long have you been working security?" 3 months at this company, sir. But I've been in security for about 2 years," Marcus answered, still expecting to be fired despite Sundar's kind words. "Well, you're excellent at it," Sundar said. He looked at his watch. "I should head inside now. We have a big day ahead." As Sundar walked through the entrance, followed by Jane and several Google executives, Dave turned to Marcus with a mix of emotions on his face. "I can't believe you just stopped Sundar Pichai," he whispered. "I was just following protocol," Marcus replied, still in shock from the encounter. "Well, keep following it. But maybe study those executive photos a bit more carefully tonight," Dave said, patting Marcus on the shoulder before walking away. The crowd slowly dispersed, but the story was already spreading through the venue like wildfire. Marcus took a deep breath and returned to his post, unaware that this incident was far from over. The minutes ticked by as Marcus continued checking credentials at the entrance. His hand still trembled slightly from the encounter with Sundar Pichai. Every few minutes, someone would walk by and glance at him with curious eyes. Some whispered to each other while looking in his direction. Marcus tried to ignore them and focus on his job. "Hey, you're famous now," said Kelly, another security guard who had just arrived for her shift. She showed Marcus her phone. Marcus stared at the screen in disbelief. Someone had posted a video of his encounter with Sundar Pichai on Twitter. The caption read, "Security guard doesn't recognize Google CEO Sundar Pichai and denies him entry to his own event. Pichai's reaction is priceless. Hashtag Google, hashtag Sundar Pichai, hashtag security." The video already had thousands of views and was being shared rapidly. Marcus felt his stomach sink. "Great. Now the whole internet knows I stopped the CEO of Google," Marcus groaned. "I'll never get another security job after this." "I don't know about that," Kelly replied. "Have you read the comments? People are actually praising you for doing your job properly. And Pichai comes off looking really good too, humble and understanding." Before Marcus could respond, his radio crackled. "Jenkins, report to the main stage area immediately," came his supervisor's voice. This is it, Marcus thought. They're going to fire me in person. As he walked through the venue, Marcus noticed more people looking at him and whispering. The grand conference hall was filling up with developers, tech journalists, and Google employees. The stage was set with the colorful Google logo, and technicians were doing final sound checks. Marcus spotted Dave waving him over near the side of the stage. Standing next to Dave was a woman in a sleek business suit who Marcus recognized as the event coordinator. "Marcus, this is Patricia Williams, head of Google I/O Planning," Dave said, looking surprisingly relaxed. "Nice to meet you," Marcus said nervously, extending his hand. "The pleasure is mine," Patricia replied with a warm smile. "Mr. Pichai has requested something unusual, and it involves you." Marcus blinked in confusion. "Me?" "Yes, he wants you to be on standby near the stage during his keynote speech. He might mention the incident from this morning." Marcus felt his heart race. Was this going to be some kind of public humiliation? Would Sundar Pichai make an example out of him in front of thousands of people? Don't look so worried, Patricia said, noticing his expression. Mr. Pichai was impressed by your dedication to security protocols. He thinks it's a good example of something important. Still uncertain, Marcus followed Patricia to a waiting area just off the main stage. Through a small monitor, you can see the massive audience eagerly awaiting the start of the keynote. Tech journalists sat in the front rows, laptops open and ready to report on Google's latest innovations. The lights dimmed, and a voice announced, "Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the CEO of Google, Sundar Pichai." The crowd erupted in applause as Sundar walked confidently onto the stage. He wore the same simple gray shirt and black pants from earlier, but now with his credentials clearly visible around his neck. "Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Google I/O." Sundar began with a warm smile. "Before I talk about our exciting new products and innovations, I want to share something that happened to me just this morning." Marcus felt his heart pounding in his chest. The entire audience fell silent as Sundar continued. "I arrived at this venue and realized I had forgotten my credentials," Sundar explained, touching the badge around his neck. "And one of the security guards, following proper protocol, refused to let me in." The audience laughed, and Marcus closed his eyes, waiting for the worst. "That security guard's name is Marcus Jenkins," Sundar continued, "and his actions this morning reminded me of something very important about our company and our world." Marcus opened his eyes, confused by the positive tone in Sundar's voice. What was happening? Marcus held his breath as he watched Sundar Pichai address the packed audience through the small monitor backstage. The massive screen behind Sundar suddenly displayed a blurry image that someone had captured of their earlier encounter at the entrance. In today's world, we'd often make exceptions for people based on who they are or what position they hold. Sundar continued, his voice clear and thoughtful. But security doesn't work that way. Security requires consistency and adherence to rules, regardless of who is involved. The audience listened attentively, some nodding in agreement. "Marcus Jenkins did exactly what he was supposed to do this morning," Sundar said, gesturing toward the side of the stage. "He didn't recognize me, I didn't have my credentials, and he refused to let me in. No exceptions." Patricia nudged Marcus gently. "He wants you to come out," she whispered. "Just walk to the mark on the floor near him when he gestures to you." Marcus felt his legs turn to jelly. Go on stage, in front of thousands of people and countless others watching the live stream. His mind raced with panic. "Marcus, can you join me on stage for a moment?" Sundar asked, looking toward the wings. With a gentle push from Patricia, Marcus found himself walking robotically onto the brightly lit stage. The lights were blinding, and he could feel thousands of eyes watching his every move. He stopped at the mark on the floor, standing awkwardly next to the CEO of Google. "This is Marcus Jenkins," Sundar said, placing a friendly hand on Marcus's shoulder. The audience broke into spontaneous applause, surprising Marcus even more. "What Marcus demonstrated today is something we value deeply at Google: integrity and commitment to doing the right thing, even when it's difficult," Sundar explained. "When I told him who I was, he didn't make an exception. He stood by the rules that keep everyone at this event safe." Marcus felt a strange mix of emotions: embarrassment, pride, and utter disbelief. This was not how he expected his day to go when he woke up this morning. "In our work at Google, we face similar choices every day," Sundar continued. "Do we follow the right procedures to protect user data? Do we maintain our standards even when it might be easier to make exceptions? Do we have the courage to say no, even to powerful people, when it's the right thing to do?" The audience applauded again, and several people stood up. Marcus noticed journalists in the front row typing frantically on their laptops. "Marcus, I want to personally thank you," Sundar said, turning to face him directly. "Your commitment to security reminds us all of the importance of integrity in everything we do." Sundar extended his hand, and Marcus shook it, still in a state of shock. The audience erupted in thunderous applause. "Now, I promise I'll keep my credentials with me at all times," Sundar joked, making the audience laugh. "And with that same commitment to security and integrity, let me show you what we've been working on at Google this year." As the audience continued clapping, Patricia appeared at Marcus's side and guided him off the stage. His phone was buzzing constantly in his pocket, likely friends and family who had seen him on the live stream. That was unexpected, Marcus managed to say once they were backstage. Dave rushed over, his face beaming with pride. Marcus, do you realize what just happened? The CEO of Google just praised you in front of the entire tech industry. This is incredible. Patricia smiled warmly. Mr. Pichai asked me to tell you that he'd like to speak with you after the keynote, and our security director wants to meet you as well. Marcus nodded, still unable to process everything. His simple act of following rules had somehow turned into the most extraordinary moment of his career. Instead of being fired as he had feared, he was being celebrated. Oh, and you might want to check your phone, Patricia added. The story is going viral online. You've become quite the internet celebrity in the last 20 minutes. Marcus pulled out his phone to find hundreds of notifications. Something told him this was just the beginning of a very unexpected journey. After the keynote speech ended, Marcus found himself in a small conference room backstage. His phone continued buzzing with messages and notifications. He had turned the sound off, but the constant vibration in his pocket was impossible to ignore. Friends, family, and even old classmates were reaching out after seeing him on stage with Sundar Pichai. You should probably respond to at least your mom, Kelly teased, peering over his shoulder at the long list of notifications. She sent you about 20 messages. Marcus nodded absently, still trying to process everything that had happened. Just as he was about to reply to his mother, the door opened and Sundar Pichai walked in, followed by a tall woman in a crisp business suit. Marcus, thank you for waiting, Sundar said warmly. I'd like you to meet Sarah Chen, our global director of security at Google. Marcus stood quickly, almost knocking over his chair in the process. He extended his hand, trying to appear professional despite his racing heart. It's an honor to meet you both, he managed to say. The honor is mine, Sarah replied with a firm handshake. What you did today is exactly what we try to teach all our security personnel. Rules exist for a reason, and exceptions create vulnerabilities. Sundar nodded in agreement. We've been working on improving our security culture at Google for years. Your simple act this morning demonstrated exactly what we're trying to achieve. A staff member entered with 3 cups of coffee, placing them on the table before quietly leaving. The aroma filled the room as Marcus tried to find the right words to respond. I was just doing my job, he said finally. I honestly thought I'd be fired for not recognizing you. Sundar laughed. That would send exactly the wrong message, wouldn't it? Fire someone for following security protocols correctly. We actually have the opposite problem, Sarah explained, taking a sip of her coffee. Too often, people make exceptions for executives or high-profile employees. Those exceptions become security gaps that can be exploited. Marcus nodded, understanding the issue from his security training. My first supervisor always said, security is only as strong as its weakest exception. Exactly, Sarah said, looking impressed. That's precisely our philosophy. Sundar leaned forward, his expression turning more serious. Marcus, the reason I asked to speak with you is that I believe your story can help us. Would you be open to working with our security team on a special project? Marcus blinked in surprise. What kind of project? Sarah explained. We're developing new training materials for our security personnel worldwide. Your experience today would make an excellent case study. We'd like to interview you, record your perspective, and possibly have you participate in some training sessions. This would be a consulting role, Sundar added. Paid, of course, and it wouldn't interfere with your current job. Marcus sat back in his chair, stunned by the offer. Just hours ago, he was worried about being fired. Now the CEO of Google was offering him a consulting position. I don't know what to say, Marcus admitted. Say yes, Kelly whispered from where she stood by the door, making everyone laugh. I'd be honored, Marcus said finally, a smile spreading across his face. Sundar stood, extending his hand again. Excellent. Sarah will work out the details with you. And Marcus, thank you again for reminding us all of the importance of integrity. As Sundar left the room, Sarah stayed behind to exchange contact information with Marcus. Outside the conference room, Marcus could hear the buzz of the ongoing event, developers and tech enthusiasts exploring Google's newest innovations. You should know, Sarah said as they finished up, that your video has over 1 million views already. #SecurityIntegrity is trending on Twitter, and several major news outlets have picked up the story. Marcus shook his head in disbelief. All because I asked for ID. All because you did the right thing, Sarah corrected with a smile, even when it would have been easier not to. As Marcus walked out of the conference room, he realized his life had changed dramatically in just a few hours, and it all started with him simply following the rules. The rest of the day passed in a blur for Marcus. After his meeting with Sarah Chen, he returned to his security post, but it wasn't the same. Developers and attendees kept recognizing him as the security guard from the keynote. Some asked for selfies, while others simply gave him thumbs up as they passed by. "You're more popular than the new Android features," joked Kelly during their shift change. "How does it feel to be famous?" Marcus shook his head. "Honestly, it's weird. I keep thinking I'll wake up and find out this was all a dream." By the time Marcus drove home that evening, the story had exploded online. Major tech websites had articles with headlines like "Google CEO praises security guard who denied him entry," and "Security over status." The Google I/O moment everyone's talking about. Marcus lived in a small apartment in Oakland. As he unlocked his door, his phone rang. It was his mother calling for the third time. "Marcus Jenkins, why haven't you called me back?" she demanded when he answered. "I had to find out my son was on stage with Sundar Pichai from Mrs. Rodriguez next door." She showed me the video on her iPad. "Sorry, Mom," Marcus replied, smiling despite his exhaustion. "It's been a crazy day." "Tell me everything," she insisted. For the next 20 minutes, Marcus recounted the day's events while heating up leftover pasta for dinner. His mother alternated between proud exclamations and questions about what Sundar Pichai was really like in person. After finishing the call with his mother, Marcus finally had a moment to check his social media. His normally quiet accounts were overflowing with notifications. His Instagram followers had jumped from 230 to over 5,000. His LinkedIn profile had hundreds of connection requests, including several from Google employees. There was also an email from Sarah Chen with the subject line "Security Training Project, Next Steps." She had already set up a meeting for the following week to discuss his role in Google's security training program. Marcus sat on his couch, overwhelmed by it all. His phone buzzed with a text from Dave, his supervisor. "Just got a call from the client. They're extending our contract and requesting you specifically for their next 3 events. You're making us look good, Jenkins." Marcus smiled, relief washing over him. Not only was he not fired, but his action had actually helped his company secure more business. As he scrolled through Twitter, Marcus found thousands of comments about the incident. Most were positive, praising both his dedication to security and Sundar's humble response. Some security professionals were using it as a teaching moment about the importance of consistent security practices. But there were also negative comments. Some people called him clueless for not recognizing one of the most famous tech CEOs in the world. Others suggested the whole thing was a planned publicity stunt. Marcus tried not to let the negative comments bother him. He knew the truth. He was simply doing his job. Just as he was about to put his phone down and get some sleep, an email notification appeared. It was from a producer at a major morning news show. "Dear Mr. Jenkins, we'd love to have you on our show tomorrow morning to discuss your experience with Google CEO Sundar Pichai. Please call me at your earliest convenience." Similar emails followed from other news outlets, podcasts, and even a few technology magazines. Everyone wanted to hear from the security guard who denied entry to Sundar Pichai. Marcus closed his email app and set his phone aside. He needed time to think. Just this morning, he was an ordinary security guard doing an ordinary job. Now, people wanted to interview him on national television. As he drifted off to sleep, Marcus wondered what tomorrow would bring. One thing was certain. His life had changed in ways he never could have imagined, all because he followed the rules and did his job properly. Morning sunlight streamed through Marcus's apartment window, waking him earlier than his alarm. He reached for his phone and found dozens more notifications that had accumulated overnight. The story had spread across the globe while he slept, reaching audiences in countries he had never visited. After a quick shower and breakfast, Marcus decided to accept the invitation from just one morning show, the one with the most professional approach. He called the producer back and arranged to do a video interview from his living room in 2 hours. This would give him time to clean up his apartment, and find his least wrinkled button-up shirt. His phone rang just as he was adjusting his collar. It was Sarah Chen from Google. "Good morning, Marcus," she said, her voice sounding energetic despite the early hour. "I hope I'm not calling too early." "Not at all," Marcus replied. "I've been up getting ready for a video interview." "Yes, that's actually why I'm calling," Sarah said. "Our PR team noticed you're becoming quite popular with the media. They wanted me to check if you need any guidance on handling interviews." Marcus felt a wave of relief. He had been nervous about speaking to journalists. That would be incredibly helpful. I've never done anything like this before. Sarah spent the next 15 minutes coaching Marcus on how to answer questions professionally while staying true to his experience. She emphasized that he should speak from his perspective and not try to represent Google in any official capacity. "Just be yourself," she advised. "That's who people want to hear from, the authentic security guard who stood by his principles." The morning show interview went surprisingly well. Marcus spoke candidly about following security protocols and his shock at meeting Sundar Pichai. The hosts were friendly, and the segment ended with them praising his professionalism. As soon as the interview ended, Marcus's phone rang again. This time it was Dave. "Jenkins, you're making us famous," Dave exclaimed. "The company owner just called me. Our website crashed this morning from all the traffic, and we've received over 50 potential client inquiries since yesterday." "That's great news," Marcus said, genuinely happy that his employers were benefiting too. "Listen, I got something important to tell you," Dave continued, his voice turning serious. "The big boss wants to meet with you this afternoon at headquarters. Can you be there at 2 p.m.? Marcus agreed, wondering what this meeting could be about. Was he in trouble after all? Or was this something positive? At exactly 2 p.m., Marcus walked into the main office of Shield Security Services for the first time. Usually, he just reported directly to his assigned locations. The receptionist recognized him immediately and led him to a large conference room where several people were waiting. Marcus recognized Mr. Peterson, the company owner, from his picture on the website. Beside him sat two other executives and, to Marcus's surprise, Sarah Chen from Google. "Marcus, the man of the hour." Mr. Peterson stood to shake his hand enthusiastically. "Please, take a seat." Once everyone was settled, Mr. Peterson got straight to the point. "Marcus, what you did yesterday has put our company on the map. We've received more interest in the past 24 hours than in the previous 6 months combined." Marcus nodded, unsure how to respond. "We've been discussing an opportunity with Ms. Chen," Mr. Peterson continued, gesturing toward Sarah. "Google wants to develop a comprehensive security training program based on your experience, and they want Shield Security to be part of it." Sarah leaned forward. "We're proposing a joint venture. Google will provide the technology and resources, Shield Security will provide the practical expertise, and you, Marcus, will be the face of the program." Marcus blinked in surprise. "Me, the face of the program?" "Your story resonates with people," Sarah explained. "It's the perfect teaching moment about security, integrity, and doing the right thing regardless of who's involved." Mr. Peterson smiled broadly. "We'd like to promote you to training director for this new program. It would mean a significant salary increase and a whole new career path. What do you think?" Marcus looked around the table at the expectant faces. 3 days ago, he was an ordinary security guard. Now he was being offered a position that could change his entire future. "I think," Marcus said slowly, finding his voice, "that I'd be honored to accept." 1 year had passed since the day Marcus Jenkins had denied Sundar Pichai entry to his own event. Now, Marcus stood at the entrance of the same venue, the Shoreline Amphitheater, but everything else had changed. He wore a sleek dark blue suit instead of a security uniform. A special badge hung around his neck that read Marcus Jenkins, Security Training Director. Next to him stood Sundar Pichai, both men greeting attendees as they arrived for the annual Google I/O conference. "Hard to believe it's been a year already," Sundar said, smiling as he checked his own badge. "I haven't forgotten my credentials since that day." Marcus laughed. "And I haven't stopped telling your story in our training sessions." The security guards working the entrance all wore small pins with the words, "Security without exception," the name of the training program Marcus had developed with Google and Shield Security Services. The program had been implemented at tech companies across Silicon Valley and was expanding nationally. Mr. Jenkins called a young woman approaching the entrance. She was a reporter from a popular tech magazine. "Could we get a quick photo of you and Mr. Pichai at the entrance? It would be perfect for our anniversary piece on how your encounter changed security practices in the tech industry." Both men agreed, posing at the same spot where they had met a year earlier. The symmetry wasn't lost on the crowd of attendees, many of whom took out their phones to capture the moment. Inside the venue, Marcus made his way to a special section where a new exhibit stood. It was called Integrity in Action and featured the story of his encounter with Sundar, along with other examples of security best practices. The exhibit was part of Google's commitment to highlighting real-world security successes. Sarah Chen joined him as he inspected the final details of the exhibit. "Everything looks perfect," she said. "Your story has inspired so many security professionals. Did you know our security compliance rate has increased by 35% since we implemented your training program?" Marcus nodded, still somewhat amazed by the impact of that single moment. It's incredible what can happen when you simply do your job properly. "Speaking of which," Sarah said, checking her watch, "it's almost time for your presentation." Marcus had been invited to give a short talk before Sundar's keynote address. As he made his way backstage, he thought about how much his life had changed in just 1 year. His new role as training director had allowed him to move from his small apartment to a comfortable house. He had paid off his student loans and had even helped his mother with her medical bills. But more importantly, he had found purpose in his work, teaching others the value of security and integrity. When it was time, Marcus walked confidently onto the stage to enthusiastic applause. Thousands of developers and tech professionals filled the audience. Millions more watched online. Among them were security guards and professionals who had been inspired by his story. "Good morning," Marcus began, his voice steady. "1 year ago, I was working at the entrance of this very venue, doing a job that many people overlook. I was following security protocols that some might consider inconvenient or unnecessary." He paused, looking out at the attentive faces. "When I didn't recognize Sundar Pichai and asked for his credentials, I wasn't trying to make a statement. I was simply doing my job to the best of my ability. I had no idea that moment would change my life and impact security practices across the industry." Marcus shared how the experience had transformed him from an ordinary security guard to a leader in security training. He explained how the Security Without Exception program had been adopted by companies worldwide, emphasizing that security is everyone's responsibility, regardless of title or position. "The lesson I learned that day wasn't just about security," Marcus concluded. "It was about the power of doing the right thing, even when it's difficult. It was about standing by your principles and following the rules that keep everyone safe." As Marcus finished his speech, the audience rose in a standing ovation. Sundar Pichai joined him on stage, shaking his hand just as he had done a year earlier. "From a moment of potential embarrassment came one of our greatest security innovations," Sundar said to the crowd, "and a reminder that integrity, at any level, deserves recognition." Marcus smiled, thinking of the long journey from that first encounter to today. His life had been transformed, not by bending the rules, but by standing firmly by them.